Welcome to Otherkin and Furries Next Door Neighbors. Hang on. Okay, just need to clear my throat. This one is not scripted. I do have a little bit, but more or less I'm running through the slides. So let's see what I got for you. Whoops, why doesn't it move? There we go. Okay, some basics. Then I will talk about some furry species, history and symbols like a bit. We'll be discussing a bit about science, public reception and role of community, but I don't know if we can make it through all of this. Yeah, so did not actually do a timing test. So we will see. If we're running out of time, I'll just leave away stuff. That's not a big problem actually. Just to tell you a little bit about the history of this panel. What you see in the background is the convention center in Hamburg, where since 2 years Eurofurence is taking place. So Eurofurence is the largest furry convention in Europe, and yeah, obviously I've been there. So we there had a Therian Otherkin event evening, so to say, and I was co-hosting this. The upper one you can see is a panel about Therians, Otherkin, their relation to furries. And I did that together with Notefox, who is a fox Therian. And then the lower one is actually a meetup hosted by Mark Unread, who are a bunch, or a pack of wolves. So actually I was trying to help them a bit, but well, didn't need much help though. So actually this was, I think it was on Friday. Oh yeah. And you see it started at 7 and the panel went on for 1.5 hours, and then the meetup also 1.5 hours. So we had a whopping 3 hours of best time ever with about 50 attendees, most of which were Therians or Otherkin. Oh yeah, and Xenia was also there. I see you. Was a really, really great thing. Well, definitely one of my highlights for that year. So, a couple of dragons asked me to repeat that panel. So that's how this panel came about. But of course, I mean, at Eurofurence, the attendees were, well, at least so we thought, were mainly furries. So it was intended for furries, yeah. And now, well, you're dragons, so I need to, you know, shift it a bit and make some new slides and leave some old slides away and so on. So I couldn't actually use the slide set just as it was. So there were some new things in there. Okay, so just to dive in, get warm. Some numbers, yeah. One of the first things you might ask about furries and Otherkin and their relation is how is the relation, how many furries are in the Otherkin community and vice versa. Oh, by the way, I'm using Otherkin as an umbrella term here, but I will be using Therian as well. So I might be using them interchangeably, yeah. So it's sometimes it's not that clear. So bear with me. So the smaller group, I think, is the Otherkin Therian group. And now, if you look at them and then ask, okay, how many furries are in this little Otherkin Therian group? Sources say that you end up at about 50%. So that's the upper number, yeah. Whereas if you meet a furry at a convention, how large is the likeliness that they are also Otherkin? And that is the lower number, 8 to 30%. So you see that there's quite a high interval here, but you also see that this is coming from 4 different surveys. Yeah, so it depends a lot where you ask and whom you ask, as it seems. Yeah, so it's quite a bit fuzzy. And then also things are not black and white, as always in life, or most of the times. So there are furries who don't even know what Therians are. And then the statement, I feel less than 100% human. Well, Therians, of course, the great majority of them answer with yes. I would subscribe to that. But you can see that also non-Therian furries, 35% of them still say they are less than 100% human or feel so. Yeah, so that is quite striking. And then the statement, I'd become 0% human if I could. Therian 60% about, non-Therian furries 40% about. So that is also quite surprising. It turns out that actually there is a number of furries who would actually fall into the definition of Therian, but don't want to call themselves Therian for whatever reason. Yeah, so that's at least what I've been told. So yeah, it's not black and white. The key difference, or one of the key differences that was already identified by Jabasi 2017, who is with fur science. I'll be talking about them later a bit, and you will see them popping up at several places in this whole presentation. So the key difference is identification with versus as non-human animal. I think you know which is which, yeah. So coming to terms, so we all know the drill. I mean, Otherkin identify fully or partially non-human. Being Otherkin is not a choice by definition, otherwise we talk of coping links. So we see Otherkin and Therian is about identity, and it is about exploration and not choosing by definition. The definition of a furry is actually a bit harder to find. There's a couple of definitions going around. So this is the most inclusive one, or the most broad one. Yeah, a furry is a member of the fandom community around the anthropomorphic animal culture. This is not about identity, not at all. And actually, yeah, just from the plain definition I gave here. Yeah, and also you can choose if you want to be a member of a fandom. Yeah, that is quite obvious. And you can also choose to leave the fandom again. Yeah, so there's a major differences here. The table shows a little bit more detail about these two groups. Yeah, so let's just go to it from the start. So what the kin type is for Otherkin. For furries, it's a bit the fursona. Yeah, we will see what a fursona is, or how it is understood, just in a minute. Yeah, but these are somehow relating to each other. How does one become Otherkin? Well, you know the drill, awakening. Furries, well, I mean, it should be a decision first and foremost, but I'm not too sure if some furries are also somehow drawn into the community or driven into it by some subtle feelings. Or I don't know actually. Yeah. So, but actually, I don't think that furries do have this typical awakening experience. Yeah? Maybe they do, maybe some do, because as I said, things are not black and white. Yeah. So you can see these two poles as extremes on each side. Yeah. Shifts for Otherkin, actually very characteristic. Yeah, one characteristic element. For furries, we will see about that. I would say, yeah, maybe furries do have shifts. I mean, they do fursuiting a lot. Is that connected to shifts? We'll come back to that in a second. What is the reason for being one or the other? Otherkin is clear. You have the two reasons. Furries should be personal interest. Yeah, more or less. And then lastly, species dysphoria. It's common for Otherkin. Furries? I don't know. I would actually expect that some of them have, yeah. So, but well, didn't find much in the scientific media actually. Okay, so coming to shifts. Yeah, that graphics actually was meant to explain to the furries what shifts are, but well, it turned out many of them were Therians anyhow. So yeah, well, never mind. Fur Science says Therians nearly are 6 times more likely to report phantom shifts than furries. But that also means that furries obviously do report having phantom shifts. So from that, I mean, they are not as likely to report them as Therians, but they still have them. And I mean, this makes total sense. If you walk around your reference, you will always see like pictures like you see here. Yeah. So yeah, this shot actually I photographed during a Neko meeting, I think. So these are cat furries, and you can see them just playing around. Yeah, this is really great to see. Yeah? So there's just they're crawling around on all fours and playing with mouses and these sticks and so on, behaving like cats. Yeah, so it's really great to see that. And now you very well quickly recognize that if a furry puts on a fursuit, they don't only change their looks, they also change their whole personality. So they would get very playful, a bit childlike. They would move differently. They would make different sounds. Many of them would stop talking and just start making other sounds. Yeah, either with their voice or with some little gadgets. Yeah, that gets squeaky sounds out and so on. And incidentally, little anecdote. At the Tyrian meetup, I was talking to Dragon fursuiter, and they told me that it's the same for the fursuiter. Yeah, so they said if I'm putting on my fursuit head, it feels like I'm getting a different being. Yeah, a different person, a different personality. So this is two-way. Yeah, and to me, pretty much, it sounds like a mental shift. It really sounds like a mental shift. There is some kind of consciousness change. Yeah, so I would say pretty much say that qualifies. So there is another parallel here. Yeah, I think furries, many of them, not all of them, but many of them do somehow shift. But it is not as central to them as it is for Otherkin, of course. Coming back to this fursona thing, here's a comparison of the most liked or the most popular species amongst Otherkin and furries, and I've taken that from different sources again. Yeah, I just actually built the average numbers, as you see, and yeah, this is actually stunning because it is pretty similar. Yeah, wolves and canines are far up the popularity level. There is dragons also, felines, foxes. I mean, in some rows you can see a little difference between the percentages, foxes especially, and most prominently, robots, hybrids, are much more popular in the furry community than in the Otherkin community, but I attribute that to a specific furry species that I will explain about in a second. Also very similar, the amount of Otherkin who have more than one kin type and the amount of furries who have more than one fursona. Very similar. So this mysterious fursona, what do we know about it? As you can see from the numbers and from the statements I've put in this box, many furries would see their fursona as somehow connected to their true selves, yeah, what they are. An idealized version of yourself, a way of self-expression, pretty obvious. The real me, yeah. So it is for not for all, but for many, it seems to be connected to some extent to their identity. And for many, it's also, of course, an expression of creativity. That's pretty obvious. But I mean, some of the furries are also say, well, my fursona is just because I like the character. Yeah, it's maybe more just the liking and not so much the identity. So that is also happening for some. Okay, I will introduce a little bit about furry species. So coming back to this robot hybrid thing, yeah, I think the popularity of this category in the furry community is more or less to one species which is very popular, and this is the protogen. Here we have a nice one. Yeah, so I did that photograph to the fursuit walk on Friday. Need to explain a bit about furry species. Yeah, so I have a theory. I think that many of these species are actually designed such that you can build nice fursuits, which is of course natural. Yeah, because that's what furries like to do. So for this one, they are based on another species who is called Primagen. Primagen are a closed species, and that is something Otherkin don't do. Yeah, so closed species means there is a creator who designs the initial species and then says, okay, I own that species. And if anybody wants to create a character of that species, they need to buy it from me. Yeah, that is closed species. And it sounds a bit strange. It also sounds like a bit, economically, how do I actually call it later? Hang on. Economically exploited, yes. A bit of merchandise-like stuff. I mean, I gotta say this. The furry community is a bit about merchandise and selling stuff, and there is a huge dealers den at Eurofurns. I've never actually been there, but I actually once, yeah, but very short because there's so much other stuff to do, and you can actually spend a huge lots of money at the dealers den for artwork, for fursuits. They are quite expensive, yeah, like 5,000 euros going up, yeah, and parts of fursuits and so on, yeah. Yeah, and also these closed species are actually auctioneered and sold at high prices as well. So not many people have Primagen characters, but Protogen are a regulated species. It means that if you want to create a Protogen character, you need to adhere to several rules. Yeah, there's a rule set. So these must have 2 legs, no mechanical ears, no raptor legs. I think there's also a rule about the tails. I'm not sure about that yet. Apart from that, Protogen are partly cybernetic, but I mean the most visible characteristics is this head, yeah, the visor, yeah. And they actually, you can buy them just prefabricated, yeah. And also there are little displays in there. They have expressions. The law says, and that is actually an interesting thing. For each species, there is a law. In this case, it says that the visor is made of nanoelectronics, nanites, yeah. So
little
robots, and they can actually rearrange so that Protogen can open their mouth and eat stuff. And they need to do that because they have organic digestive systems, and also the rest of the body is organic. Yeah, so they're not all cyber. The limbs, however, are detachable. So yeah, again, a bit of cyber thing is us. So quite an interesting species. I actually love them. A couple more species. This one you can actually see a lot, but this one is actually the only photo I spotted at last year's Eurofurns. These are the Avali. They are an open species. Characteristics are, and be sure to remember them. I will ask about them in the exam later. No, just kidding. They have actually feathers or wings on their arms. It's not really visible here. I'm not sure why. But another characteristic is they have 4 ears, and they have large black eyes without pupils. And there you have it again. This is of course great if you want to build a fursuit head, yeah, because the eyes are always a problem. You somehow need to enable the person inside to look through it, and it is a bit of a problem if you got natural eyes on the fursuit head. If you got just a large area that is blackened, yeah, you can place the person eyes just behind that, and you will have no problem at all. So in this case, it's part of the law. Also, oh yeah, they use an own writing. You can see it down here. That's how it looks like. This actually says the dragon. I just did that myself just a few minutes ago to give you an expression. Yeah, the lore of this species is very interesting. They live actually at a remote planet with a very cold habitat, minus 30 degrees. So their blood is not based on water, but on liquid ammonium, which is apparently liquid at that temperature, but it will evaporate on Earth climate conditions. So Avali need either active cooling or nanotechnology to survive in Earth climate. And that, I think, again, is a reference to fursuit building, because the fursuits are getting quite hot in there, yeah. So especially if it's in the summer, yeah. So many fursuiters would have active cooling, yeah, little ventilators built in there, and also some of them have active water cooling even, yeah. So that is quite sophisticated. And yeah, for the Avali, this is part of the law. Quite interesting, I think. Also, oh yeah, quite important. When I came to Eurofurence last year, I was of the impression or the belief that probably there would be no Avali kin. Yeah, so Otherkin who identify as Avali. And boy, was I wrong. I was so wrong. There are Avali kin. And it's not even that there are only some of them, but they have their own community. They have their own Discord server. I just was not brave enough to jump on there as a dragon yet, because I would love to talk to an Avalikin. The thing is, the law says that they don't interact too much with other species. So maybe that's the reason why they like to stay amongst themselves. So yeah, I didn't know that. Quite interesting. And by the way, I pretty much think that there are protogen kin too. Yeah. So 2 more species and then that's enough. This one here on the right side, this is a circle. Characteristics is shark-like heads. Otherwise, yeah, they're actually digit grade walking. You cannot see it here. But yeah, I love them. They are fluffy. And then also very fluffy, you see on the left side, the Dutch angel dragon. Yes, fluffy dragon pair, basically. Dutch is not because they come from the Netherlands, actually, but I found that it is the name of the creator's horse, who apparently died already. So, yeah, a little bit of a twist here. They are regulated species, and they are like supernatural, celestial type of species. Yeah, there's more lore about them, but I cannot put it all here. So yeah, pretty nice. Okay, so that was like a few species. Now, history. And I put Otherkin and furries vice versa here. Yeah, so just to compare this a bit. But I obviously cannot go into history of fully, but this would actually warrant an own panel. I can always talk about history so much, yeah. So as you can see, in the early ages, well, we do know that some people in the antique Greek area were actually maybe identifying as furries or Otherkin. Yeah, Diogenes is a popular example. He was called, is a Greek philosopher, so he was called the dog because it is said that he used to behave like a dog in public spaces, which might actually borderline to clinical therianthropy, but well, you never know. Well, but just these cases, we don't know if people were Otherkin or furries. Yeah, we just have no basis of judging. So in the modern times, you can see that it all started like somewhere in the 1900s. first mention of therianthropy, most interestingly, in a religious book. And the furry, of course, anthropomorphic art started around 1800. And then, of course, at that side, the well-known Disney movies came out. Bambi obviously triggered a lot of people, while at the Otherkin side, you can see that one of the earliest occurrences is done by the Elf Queen's daughters, so a group of elves who published articles in neo-pagan magazines. That is modern religion, so to say. Yeah, so that was the 70s, and they continued that out the 80s actually. Silver elves were coming up, ultra werewolves came up, and then there was at the Otherkin side at mid 1990s the first hole ever. Harvest Hole in Ohio. I don't know how many people attended there, but it's usually not that much. It's usually like 8 or 10 or 12 or something. Yeah? Whereas for the furries, the furry events actually started at comic and sci-fi cons as room parties. And you all know somehow the rooms get too small, so because they were actually meeting at hotel rooms, yeah, so very little space, so they quickly moved to specific con spaces, and Conference Zero happened in 1990 or something. Yeah, so 65 attendees, not too much, but you see, if you take a look at the end of the table, Conference 9, so that is only 10 years later, and already they gone over 1,000 participants. So this was growing really fast. The furries love to meet in real life, obviously. You know, furries is much about self-expression and showing yourself, or showing what you like, so to say, your persona towards the outside. While Otherkin, we don't do that much. Yeah, so I like to say that Otherkin actually excel in self-exploration and introspection and these things, while the furries actually excel in self-expression. And I think there's something we can learn from each other. Yeah. Okay, let's see how it goes on in the 2000s. Yeah, well, of course, there's all these online things. Yeah, actually, there's more online stuff at the Otherkin side than at the furry side, because they are meeting in real life, just preferably. Yeah. Lupas Field Guide to Otherkin. There is no such thing at the furry side, I think. Actually, well, maybe there is, but I didn't know. Yeah, so it's always possible. Oh yeah, the Eurofurence came up, and then when was the first Eurofurence? Actually, I did put it here. In 1995, starting with 18 attendees, and then 2014 they already had over 1,000. Moves to Berlin. Before that, Eurofurence was actually in a different city each year. They don't do that anymore. And also Antracon started in 2006. That's the world's largest furry conference, FurryCon. So, hang on, no, that's actually where it came to Pittsburgh. There was the first Antracon, 1997, Albany, NY, and then they changed to Pittsburgh. Okay, I forgot that. Modern times, yeah, well, Corona, you know, it brought a lot of online Otherkin conventions. There's 5 of them now, actually, as far as I know. And the furries also did do that to some extent, but they quickly changed back to meeting in real life, because obviously, I mean, you cannot really do fursuiting in an online conference. Yeah. So what is actually great for Otherkin is not so great for furry, for the furry community. There is an online, or at least one, I think there are more than that, furry event, quite big one for Reality, and they are still doing it on VR chat. Very nice. I attended one of those too. Very nice worlds, very, very highly, very much work put into this. But that is actually the case for all of the furry cons. Yeah, I mean, furries put an incredible amount of creativity and time and also money in making these cons. Yeah, it's more or less all fan created. It's not that there is a high level of merchandising or big industry behind it like you have it with anime cons. Yeah, the furries are actually doing stuff all by themselves. Symbols, yeah, there is a furry symbol, as you can see. Always somehow has the paw in it. And also there are furry flags, but actually we did not leave them in there. This is just only Tyrian and Otherkin flags for the furry audience, you know. We did have furry flags in the panel, but we decided to remove them because we were told that furries don't really use them. And that is actually, yeah, I don't know why. Well, maybe it's because a fursuit is actually enough of an external representation. You don't actually need more than that. You don't need a flag to say, hey, I'm a furry. You just wear a fursuit. Yeah, that's straightforward. We didn't see any furry flags, I think, at Eurofurence. You don't see much flags at all, and also the furry symbol is not used a lot. Yeah, so that might be a bit of a difference. I think Otherkin are doing a bit more symbolizing than furries. Okay, so this basically summarizes what we had so far. I think I talked about much of the things. So the roots, yes, neo-paganism versus comic sci-fi cons. Meetings, yeah, for Otherkin, we like to stay hidden somehow a bit online or underground, whatever. Yeah, I mean, nowadays with the meetings, we come a bit out of hiding, which is, I think, good. But it's nowhere near what furries are doing. Yeah, so huge conventions. I mean, come on, Eurofurence this year or last year was it had about 6,000 attendees. Yeah, so and they are out in the open. Yeah, I mean, everybody can see them. Yeah, so I mean, they also make a great job in creating safe spaces. They have a security team and so on, and they really making a great job. But they are out and about actually. Yeah, the fun aspect need to hide. Yeah, furries are very professional as well. Public reception, I'll be talking about it at the end, so we can skip it here. And special ability, I've told about it. There is one thing that both groups like to do, and that is Abu. Really funny. I mean, it's such a great thing if you're sitting in a huge conference or con space with like 4,000 or 5,000 furries, yeah, and one of them starts to woo, and suddenly the whole room is wooing. So this is so great. They love to do that, and also we also do it. I mean, if I look at the Othercon final events, also this great woo of Othercon, yeah, or how do they call it? Yeah, so we share that. As I see, I mean, we have our differences, but we share a lot of things. Okay, now coming a bit more to the scientific part, but actually I kicked out 2 slides because there was too much science or didn't actually apply to us. This one was in Hamburg. This one was one of my central slides. It shows the Otherkin individuation trajectory, which is somehow backed by Nat Albricke's thesis. It shows basically how one becomes Otherkin. Yeah? So the typical steps that Otherkin are taking, yeah, and I believe that some of them are shared by furries as well. Maybe not the feeling of otherness, non-humanness here, but I pretty much guess, it's a guess, yeah, so this is not backed by science, yeah, the Otherkin part is, but the furry part isn't. But I pretty much guess that furries also played animals as kids. I mean, many kids do that, it's normal. Kinship with animals also. Shifts I'm not sure about. The awakening here is central to Otherkin. Maybe not so much to furries, yes. But for furries it might be more the discovery of the community and maybe visiting the first FurryCon, yeah, the first convention, that might come as a revelation to them. But community discovery is also kind of revelation to us, yeah, so to Otherkin, because all of a sudden you have someone or a group of people that you just can't tell without having to explain stuff because they are the same as you. And that is absolutely great. And I think for furries, might be a similar experience. Yeah, introspection, reasoning, and so on, research and refinement. I think that many furries don't do that in terms of their own self and their own identity, but they put a lot of effort into designing their persona. So that is a creative process. And I mean, we do similar things. So many Otherkin are writing or drawing or whatever. Yeah. So furries design a persona, and then many of them will want to have a fursuit as a primary goal. Yeah. You don't have to have a fursuit to be a furry, though. I think this is pretty much agreed on. Although you can look at things differently. Yeah. But at Eurofurence, we'll see it in the end. There's a picture. Actually, most people who are there do not have a fursuit. Yeah, so I mean, there's still an ample amount of fursuiters, but a full fursuit, I mean, they are expensive. Yeah, so not everyone can have one. Okay, that's all I wanted to say here. Yeah, so science. Around this, it is of course evolving. Science at the furry side is actually a bit more advanced than at the Otherkin side. I mean, for Otherkin, there is people like Nat Albricker, Devin Proctor, and a couple of others. So individual researchers who have done research, mostly or many from the psychological sector or social science sector. But for furries, it's much more organized. I talked about Fur Science. Fur Science is a US-based group of furry researchers. They are quite well organized. You can look at their webpage. You will see that they are around since quite some time, and they have been doing a lot of surveys at furry conventions, mostly Anthrocon, but also others, I think. And yeah, Jabazi is one of them. I need to just clear my throat. Yeah, and yeah, that is something that is just not there at the Otherkin side. So Jabazi, to 2017 already came up with the statement that, well, you can see it. Therianthropy is not the same as clinical lycanthropy or therianthropy. But this paper you see in the background, I found just before Eurofurence. It's very new still, July 2025. And if you take a look at the right side, the circle stuff, you can see that it includes Therians, furries, and Otherkin. So that catched my interest. And they say we caution against unnecessarily pathologizing. So, sounds good. At Eurofurence, I did not read this yet, but now I did. Oh yeah, so already chat discussion going on. So let's see. I did read it. Now, okay, granted, this paper is first and foremost about clinical lycanthropy. So they're talking about historical accounts, case statistics, diagnosing, treatment. Quite an interesting read, but also quite medical. And I have to say they make a good job in differentiating clinical and non-clinical therianthropy for the most part. They suspect that there is a continuum between the two, but they immediately also say that maybe they are mistaken in that. Yeah, and well, yeah, maybe they are. Yeah, so a continuum. Maybe the case, maybe not. But I mean, still, that can be speculated. They do introduce the terms furries, therians, and Otherkin, and the introduction is reasonably accurate, which is not actually going by itself. Yeah, so I'm pretty happy about that. And they propose criteria to avoid misdiagnosing therians as clinical therianthropes. I think there are 4 criteria that they define, one of which is the belief that you are actually transforming into an animal. And also another one is the presence of clinically significant distress, possibly additional psychiatric disorders. So I think it is quite reasonable. I mean, I do have some trouble at some points, especially about the terminology. There is a table in the paper which is about the types of species that clinical therianthropes believe to turn into, and those species are called stereotypes. Not good. I mean, they should use another term here. They are also talking about therianthropic symptoms to actually mean clinical symptoms. So there is room for improvement. And it alarms me still a bit that there might be some confusion. So let's keep an eye on it. Yeah. So,
I'm
but
so
I
sorry
want to say that these
to
things.
to I'm so sorry to interrupt. Just letting you know
Yes.
that there's 14 minutes before the next panel starts.
Oh, no. Don't mind. I will just keep on talking. Maybe say for 5 minutes or something. So yeah, thank you for that. So back to science. Yeah, there is also a furry science conference, furry studies. There were two of them, I think. And yeah, I was attending both of them. This year, actually, just to go in quickly, there was a keynote that Rod O'Reilly said that the emergence of furries might be a sign of too much humanism in society. That's an interesting hypothesis, but I couldn't find it in science. So I don't know how they come about it. Then one panel was about stickers. What you see here is my own laptop, yeah. So I just planted some stickers from your phones on there. There's loads of stickers. Furries like to do stickers. Yeah, we don't do that actually, but furries do. Apparently, they create a sense of ownership of a space and serve socialization and friend making. So at furry cons, you normally see sticker walls that are just at the end of the con are just printed with stickers all the way, and you can find stickers lying around everywhere. So that is quite funny. There was a panel about furry music and games, also, especially the music is fan made. And then quite interesting, furries as a response to a hostile world. That one hypothesized that furries are somewhat at odds with humans. Yeah, well, maybe the case. I think it's the same for us. Yeah, so I'm not talking about misanthropy. I'm just talking about like, yeah, humans are strange animals. Yeah, so like that. Yeah, and that is actually this. And then trans species panic. Yeah, this one was about right-wing folks equating furries and therians by intention, and US law, anti-furry bills, you know, for some states actually forbid to wear fursuits in schools and so on. So you see, furries are exposed to public fire. And that is, some of it is actually directed at therians. And actually, I feel a bit guilty for that. I feel a bit sorry for the furrians. But that brings me to actually more or less the last topic, public reception. The first box is actually summarizing a paper from Zuri Klaschka from last year. I think so. Zuri paper articles and found that most of them contain false information about only about Otherkin. Like half of them, or actually more than half, contained false information. Only two of them were accurate. Yeah, 2 out of 20. So that is a bit well. I don't like it. And I thought that furries would be less subject to public stigmatization, but Fur Science says no, I was wrong. There is stigmatization. There is many news articles against furries. There is this moral panic in the US, especially misconception that furries think they are animals. Always people thinking that it's a sexual thing. I mean, it is a part of it, yeah, but it's not about sexual things. Yeah, the furry community is much more than that. But it's used as an argument against furries. So furries and otherkin are faced with very similar reactions from the public, yeah. And actually the misconceptions that these reactions are based on are pretty similar, yeah, to some play, yeah. So, you know, people are saying, oh, this is a role play, it's just a phase, they will grow out of it. And then you get this rejection that is here in the red box. If you are lucky, there is like tolerance, yeah. So disbelief means some people would say, hey, I don't believe you, but it's fine. I tolerate you. Yeah, I will leave your belief to you. That's fine. And actually, that is already quite good. And there is also acceptance. Yeah, some people are just interested and fascinated. Yeah. I was actually thinking a bit about this red box and thinking about why are people reacting so differently to furries and otherkin, and why is there such a broad range of reactions? Yeah, just to give you an anecdote, I like to comment on YouTube videos, and if it's about humans, sometimes I write in my comment your species instead of humans. Yeah. It's interesting to observe the reactions to that. Yeah, so most people will just ignore that if they answer to my comment, but other people, just recently, there was one person who wrote, "Hey, you said your species, but actually you mean our species." Yes, so that is actually, to me, that is a try to assimilate me into the human group. Yeah, which of course I reject. Yeah, so well. So that is one way of rejection. Yeah, fake benevolence. I will explain what I mean, because I actually made up my mind about some mechanisms of rejection. But since we are running out of time, I will not explain that right now. As you can see, it is complicated. So, and it also is quite psychological. So maybe this could be the beginning of a new panel about this topic, because I think it is important for two reasons. First of all, we might want to develop a counter argument against that rejection. And the second reason is that we might just want to increase acceptance in public for otherkin and also furries. Yeah, so we need to know what that mechanism is, I think. Yeah, so as I want to explain, fake benevolence, maybe I do explain. I mean, this is somehow the stance of, yeah, I do understand you, but I think that you are just coping for something, and that is why you feel as an animal, or you like to play an animal because you are coping for something. It sounds benevolent, but actually it is still devalidating. Yeah, so that is still rejection. Yeah, and then there's like supremacy defense. I mean, you know that probably when people say, "Hey, no, you are not an animal. You're not better than us." Oh, I never said so. Yeah, and also, I mean, what does it mean, better? Yeah, so and also, if even if somebody is better than yourself, what's the bad thing about it? I mean, who cares? So it's a bit strange. All okay. Last final words. Oh yes, still 5 minutes. Oh, I'll make it. Community. Yeah. Okay. So who can spot the protogen on that picture? Sorry, there is none on there. I searched for them. So for furries, I think the community is of similar importance than for otherkin. And as you see, this space is huge. Yeah, so it goes all the way to the main station, or the station behind. And furries in the communities are talking about very similar things than we do. Yeah. how do I come out to my family members or to friends? How to do it in a sensible way? How to phrase it? Should I come out or not? Yeah. Then it's much about visibility. So yeah, this was actually one of the videos I put in the sources there. Furries like to be seen. Yeah. So they like to invest money in fursuiting because it represents them to some extent. They like to commission well-known artists, and this is also, I mean, economically exploited quite a bit, as I said. There is also drama in the furry community, I guess. I didn't see much, but I guess that's the case for every community. And yeah, people are leaving the furry community for several reasons. Either it's money or you need space for the fursuits, and as you grow older, you get kids and they need the space, and so on and so on. Also, maybe because of the drama, and yeah, there's quite a lot about furry community in the internet, and it's similar to the Otherkin community, I think. Okay, so that's it. Takeaways. Furries and Otherkin are different, but we share a lot of interests and problems. Yeah, think about public rejection. Furries excel in self-expression, Otherkin in self-analysis, so we can learn from each other. And since we are next door neighbors, as I'm convinced of, let's stand together to defend our position. Yeah, if we're both attacked, then we can support each other, I think. So I've really found a kind of second home at Eurofurence. That is always a great experience. I'm looking forward to this year. I would just scroll through my sources for the record. And as you can see, there is a lot of them. I actually don't know if I used all of them in this one. Oh, and there we go. So thank you for listening. We're still in time. And yeah, made it. I think I cannot answer too many questions to post in the chat. What, single McDonald's at the train station? Okay. I think let me come back to you if I see questions, because the next panel is about to start up. Yeah, I think that will be better. If I'm scrolling through the messages and try to answer them, then we will already be too late, I think. Okay, let's do it this way. I will see about the questions and I will try to type some answers. It might take me some time because we have a big program still to come this evening. But let's close it for now and do it this way. Okay, thank you and see you around in the next one. Bye.